You are all here today to talk about audit. I imagine most of you are experts in this space and are experiencing what we're seeing, that it is a right time for changes in the audit community. And why is this, right? The need to be continuously auditing has never been more present than it is now. Things like the traditional audits are still occurring, and now there's new needs for things like auditing ESG processes. Auditing, cybersecurity has become a new area of focus, all with the demands on talent around the globe decreasing, right? We have less those that are entering the marketplace, which makes our needs for processes in the audit space to ever become more modern. So there is good news though, right? With the AI and agentic tools that are available, there are simple processes that can be put in place to really streamline some of these audit steps. That helps with the pressure that continues to be felt from auditors and of course our internal stakeholders. And so looking at platforms that offer low code and ways to streamline how we access audit processes is a key need for leaders today. And this is really where Knime comes into play. So a quick look, one slide to help you level set and understand Knime, who we are, and how we help in the audit space. We do have a software platform today, which we're depicting here on this slide. On the left-hand side, you see what we call our Knime Analytics platform. This is our free and open source solution that enables folks in the audit space, data analytics teams, etc., to get in and really play with your data. As we said, we are a low code tool. So see the colored squares here really represent building blocks. We call these nodes, and you can drag and drop these. Each node performs a different function, such as grabbing your data from an internal source like Excel, SAP, maybe it's an external data source, bringing that data together to simply transform your data, get it ready for preparation and work, maybe do some extraction, and at the back end, even pull that data back into your internal systems. So the analytics platform is where much of this innovation and work occurs. Over on the right-hand side, you see our commercial business offering we call Business Hub, and this is really the workhorse. This enables you to take all of those workflows and processes that have been developed and enable them throughout your organization. You can centralize the processes, put governance in place to have control over who sees which data, which workflows, which LLMs you might tap into, and schedule those workflows for the most efficient processes possible. So I could spend the next hour talking to you about this and sharing some slides, but I think you're probably more interested in hearing from some experts. So you will see here the three that will be joining me today. We have Atanas, who is currently serving as a manager at his firm, IGT, in the Internal Audit Analytics function. And from DVW Analytics, a premier partner with Knime, we have Darron joining us, the CEO of the organization, and Ian, an account executive role. So what will we be doing for the next hour? Atanas is going to join us and really talk about the audit space and how at IGT they were able to modernize a bit with Knime, what that looks like. Afterwards, we'll hear from Darron, and he'll share a little bit about what DVW is doing and how they're making it easier to tap into your essential data, which often sits within SAP. And then Ian will show us a live demo of how this works within the Knime environment as well. Finally, all of us will come back on stage and we'll really talk about some questions to get a little bit more at the heart of the matter of what you're probably interested in terms of the audit space today. And of course, this is where your questions will come to play. So if you do have one, please make sure you hit that Q&A button and just type your questions in at any time. So with that, I am going to invite Atanas to join me back on stage, and welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Can you just please confirm that you can hear me well?
We hear you. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that confirmation. And you can see my screen, right? The presentation?
Yes, we see your screen. You sound good.
Yeah,
good. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, great. So my name is Atanas Bosakov, and I'm the Internal Audit Analytics Manager at a company called Brightstar, and we just actually rebranded the company. So most of the presentation actually, it relates to what I've been doing in the IGT environment before we transitioned to Brightstar. So just wanted to mention that we have a kind of brand name change there. Anyway, back to audit. I joined the audit profession about 5 years ago, and I was very excited to learn that in the audit space, you can really excel by using data analytics. And why is that? If we actually take a step back and think about the audit space, we get to touch various data sources. And I'm not an auditor, so this presentation will be mostly focused on data analytics and how we can support the audit function and build really robust, high-impact audit function by providing data analytics support. So when I joined the profession, I also realized that the industry as a whole is very behind, because in the ever-changing landscape of data analytics, there's always something new and better, but kind of the space got stuck in old-fashioned tools. And we really needed to kind of improve our processes and the tools, and that gave me the opportunity really to bring some of more modern data science tools. So this is going to be the focus of our presentation today. And to really provide you a good overview, I would like to give you a glance of our framework and also some tangible examples. So with that being said, I want to walk you over what we called Internal Audit Analytics framework. And as you can see here on the left, we have our data sources, insights, and right in the middle is what we call our orchestration layer. Literally, Knime Analytics and DVW, the way we actually consume our SAP data, and I'm going to talk a little more about it in a moment, but just wanted to set the stage, is really the centerpiece and the hinge pin for our orchestration. And why is that? Well, in data analytics, as I already mentioned, actually in internal audit rather, we get to audit various aspects of the business. And as such, we have to connect to various data sources, and that's why there's a need for a robust tool and a process that we can actually achieve that with efficiency and also in a reproducible way, because in the internal audit space, it's all about reproducibility, transparency, and be able to show that we actually do it in a sound analytics way. In other words, the integrity of the data has been preserved and all the steps really are followed through. And this is exactly where Knime really shines, because it's a low-code visual workflow environment that serves as a self-documenting mechanism. So it's been great from that regard, and that's why Knime is great for the analytics space. And here, as you can see, I have this in green. The reason I have it is because most of you probably are auditors who are joining here. The continuous audit and continuous monitoring is a big theme in audit from data analytics standpoint. And to accomplish that, if we think about it, you really need to establish a continuous data pipeline. And one of the main data sources for our company, and I'm assuming that's the case for many companies out there joining this presentation, is SAP. And so for us to establish this continuous data pipeline, we needed a robust and efficient access to our SAP data. So first we adopted Knime, the free and open source Knime Analytics platform, and we started exploring and playing with it, and we quickly realized that this is the tool for us. And the overall theme here for establishing continuous data pipeline is also integration. We wanted to make sure that our existing tools and processes can really be integrated in a plug-and-play fashion. And shortly after, we actually started exploring how we can bring our SAP data into this pipeline. And that's where we discovered DVW Analytics for our SAP data. And it's been tremendous experience. We were able to do everything much more efficiently. And because of that, we were able to perform more audits, and we increased the overall analytics maturity of our analytics audit department by tackling more complex and sophisticated audits. So it's all about establishing this data pipeline. And of course, if you have systematic access to data that is reproducible and you have the tools needed to orchestrate everything, on the right side, really providing meaningful and tangible insights is just a matter of what do you want to present and how do you want to present the audit findings. And with that being said, I really want to give you some very tangible examples of how we do it. And I'm going to start with something that perhaps most of you can relate to if you're using SAP data. So this is a workflow for our journal entry exceptions. And probably you're familiar with the BKPF and BSEC cluster tables. So one of it is a transparent table. The other one is a cluster. They're notorious SAP tables because of the sheer amount of data they store. And this workflow essentially allows us in a self-documenting way, also reproducible in systematic way, to query SAP data using the DVW connector. And that allows us to, as you can see here, to query over 11 million records. Once we query the data, then what do we do with it? It's really up to us. But again, the point being is we have the tools to perform many and various analytics. And the example that I'm showing you right now here on the screen relates to Benford's Law. So Benford's Law is, just in a nutshell, a methodology used in internal audit to kind of capture anomaly and possible fraud. And in addition to that, we also have just traditional statistics-based outlier detections. So going back to the overall overview here, this is really golden for us because we have, again, the ability to query data systematically, and everything happens subsequently. If you think from internal audit perspective, we can also work with our external auditors to show step-by-step in this, again, visual workflow environment, how everything was achieved. So that helps us with documentation as well. And here, I just want to focus on this extension, kind of as a segue to the next slide. So once we query the data, we can not only perform Benford's analytics, but something else that is very popular in the internal audit space from analytics perspective is population and sampling. So from there, we can really, since we have easy access to our SAP data, we can perform, we can actually audit 100% of the population to find outliers and just really profile the data for any outliers. But from there, we can also drill down and come up with the stratified proportional random sampling. And everything is orchestrated in a way that is easy to follow and reproduce as needed. And it's dynamic, meaning we want to make sure that we're not going to overwrite any of the prior samples that we've created. So everything's dynamically created with variables and controlled by variables, which really allows us to show a sound analytics work. And compared to what we were using when we started, there has been huge efficiency gain. We were able to do everything about 85% more efficiently compared to some of the legacy tools that we've used in the past. And fundamental to that is actually the access to SAP data again. So the combination, the hybrid approach of using Knime with SAP data has been really instrumental for our success and building this robust, high-impact analytics function. And last but not least, I want to mention that on top of that, we purchased, so we've been using the free and open source, but on top of that, we purchased the Knime Business Hub. And with the Knime Business Hub, we can not only distribute these workflows using the free and open source version of it, namely Knime Analytics Platform, but with Business Hub, we can expose data as data apps. So essentially allowing us to achieve high level of collaboration and innovation, but also at the same time have a sound version control. So we can prove that what's been put in production hasn't been altered in any material way. So it's just a way for us to really have this central hub with Knime Business Hub where we control. So this is kind of our control tower to really execute in a meaningful way our workflows. And I'm going to give you a glance of it. So this might sound and look very complex. What we do with Knime Business Hub is actually also reduce complexity. What our end users, management, and the auditors see is just this nice interface where they have just options to put few parameters such as the start date, the end date. And as you can see, this is for one of the SOC cycles. And they have the ability to query SAP data themselves and get the meaningful results for their audits. And that actually democratizes data. And it's been a very successful journey for us with this hybrid combination. So with that being said, I want to introduce Darron. And Darron is from DVW, our partner who really helped us to be so successful in the analytics space.
That's great. Thanks, Atanas. And I have to say, I know I've said it before, but the use case you've built there and the way you present it is really, really strong. So thank you for that. Can you show my screen, please, guys? Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so for the next few minutes, 5 minutes, let me just take you through some high-level capabilities. Atanas has sort of hinted at some of those during his presentation there, but let me take you through them so you get a sense of what you can achieve with SAP data within Knime. On the left-hand side of the slide here, what we've identified is what we see as the most important SAP products that DVW supports. It's not by any means an exclusive list, all-encompassing list. It's a partial list, but we've identified here what we see as the most important SAP products that's supported. And the very top line there is probably where most of our customers sit and where most of SAP's customers sit as well. It's in utilizing data from within the core transactional ERP system. It could be the old R3. There's still some of those systems out there. It could be SAP ECC, where the majority of SAP customers and our customers still reside at the moment, or it could be one of the variants of SAP S/4HANA, which an increasing number of our customers are gradually migrated onto. But these systems are, the core transactional systems. This is the hub where all the data, majority of data within your systems resides. Outside of those systems, we also support the core SAP Analytics products, SAP BW, SAP BW for HANA, if you utilize that, or even SAP Analytics Cloud, relatively new product, but we already have demand for customers to better consume and work with the data within there. In the planning space, we work with old school BPC, business planning consolidation, and in new school integrated business planning, which is a cloud-based application, SuccessFactors in the HR space, and the whole suite of customer experience products as well. We also work with the old legacy business suite applications, SAP CRM, SAP ERP, PLM, these types of things. I know again from experience, there's plenty of companies still utilizing those and the whole range of products out there. So in summary, I guess, in terms of what we support, all the core products, all the most important products, anything that runs on what we'd call the ABAP stack, the old ABAP stack, which includes the SAP S/4HANA product, as well as the core, most important cloud-based solutions, and we're extending our footprint within there. Now, even here, you can see there's a complex beast, and there's many hundreds of SKUs on the SAP product list. But within those individual systems, there's also some complexity, which is great for us and maybe more difficult for you guys. So let's take a look at a couple of them. Now, Atanas mentioned one of those in his demonstration there, presentation rather there, which was the ability to extract data from SAP tables. It's a key feature, and particularly folks working in audit, to have that granularity of saying, this is the SAP table where my data resides. Let me specify the individual fields that I want to extract data from. Let me apply filters to that data, and let me extract that data in a very efficient manner. Right, key capability which we offer. Our software is particularly unique in two ways. One is that we're not connecting with SAP database directly at all. Right, we do everything via what's called the application layer in SAP. And what this means is very important. It means that the governance and controls built into the SAP system are automatically respected by our software. So what does this mean? It means that as a user, I can only access the data and the objects that I'm authorized to access. So there's no risk of anybody running off with all the data within your SAP system, even if they could extract all of it in a short period of time. Secondly, it means that the safety belts built into the SAP system, again, are automatically respected. And this means that we can do no harm to your SAP systems. Globally now, we have close to 600 large enterprises using our software, and it's, you know, if we had software that didn't respect the SAP environment, we wouldn't have sold many licenses. So tables and table views, key capability, BSEG, BKPF, beautiful, wonderful. Now, the downside of tables, of course, is you need to have some knowledge of the SAP data model, how those tables relate together. And for some of your processes, you may need to sort of reconfigure, rebuild some of the business logic within those. The beauty of our other offerings, so tables, is that we can also extract data directly from SAP transaction codes and about reports. And in the new HANA world, Fiori apps. So what's great here is it means that I can consume directly the business logic from within that transaction, from that Fiori app, without having to rebuild it myself within Knime. Okay, so it's a massive accelerator in terms of processes you'll want to build out using Knime. Another key capability, just to mention it, is that we allow you the ability to extract documents, attachments from within the SAP system, right? And so there's maybe an invoice has been uploaded in PDF format against the GL post in SAP, fantastic. But from an audit perspective, I need to be able to get access to the original PDF document, which today is very much a manual process, and I download it, print it, whatever it is, and I have to eyeball it and look at the system and do these kinds of things. So what we can do with Knime and the DVW capability here is we can maybe use our table capability to extract data for the appropriate tables, extract the PDF document from SAP through Knime, and reconstitute it into its original format. So essentially extract the necessary data from it, and then we start doing some automated reconciliations. So it's a big game changer for folks who need that kind of capability. So there's kind of a couple of key things there. We also work with BW, of course. All the queries and info providers, all those kind of things are fully available to you. And as you'll see when I hand over to Ian in a couple of minutes, this is pretty user-friendly. We've designed our software to be usable by business users as folks who work with an IT or even SAP specialists, right? So trying to make it as easy and clean to use as possible. Obviously, the more you know about SAP, the better in many cases if you're working with it. But if all you know is the Fiori app with the T codes you need to get data from, then you're okay. And then you'll have to work out how to utilize the various functions within Knime to get the most out of that particular data. So read capability, this is what we're referring to here when we talk particularly about audit. We also do have write-back capability using technologies such as BAPI and IDOC, OData as well. So it is possible for us to push data from Knime back into the appropriate SAP environment. And a lot of our customers are pretty large. They have pretty large SAP estates. Often we'll have many different SAP systems and want to be able to utilize data from more than one of those in a single Knime workflow. Our current record holders in the 40s, 40 different SAP systems, which is somewhat astonishing. Most will be one or a handful of SAP systems, but we don't restrict you at all in any way. We're doing that. I've already mentioned about the governance and controls, which is kind of key aspect of what we offer. And the key thing, I guess, from a security perspective, there's no stage of data. Data doesn't lurk anywhere in the middle between the DVW software and SAP and Knime. It's basically a direct pull of data from one system to the other, and then you're free to utilize it in the Knime platform as you choose to do so. So hopefully there you have a sense of what we're offering, some of the capabilities that attracted Atanas and his team that they've been able to take advantage of. We do offer trials, so we'll obviously send stuff out later. But I'm quite keen for you to take a look and see what this thing looks like. So Ian, can I hand over to you to hopefully dazzle folks with a demo?
Hi, sorry, I dropped off there for a second.
Well,
Not asleep, just yeah, I'm not saying it was long, that bit. Hi, Ian James here from the DVW commercial team. Yeah, so I get to do a little bit of the fun bit just to show you exactly what this looks like when it.
Is everybody else hearing Ian at all, or is it just me? I can't hear him.
Yes, I think it is everyone, Darren. So it looks like Ian must have a challenge with his connection. I don't know if you want to say a thing or two, or we could just dive into our Q&A piece.
Yeah, until he comes back, it's better to see it than me to just talk about it. I think so. If we can get him back, let's let him show it, Jennifer. But otherwise, Q&A perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll give Ian a moment here to see if he can log back in. And while we're doing that, we are starting to get a few questions. So, Atanas, if you can come back on the screen for a second, maybe we'll start with a few of these, and we'll be flexible here if we get Ian back on. Great. So, Atanas, there's a question in the chat here, and maybe this helps set the scene a little bit. And the question is, can you just tell us a little bit more about your audit department? So, for example, how large is it? How many auditors? Are you working with a central data and analytics team? You did mention that. And just so how many, whatever you're comfortable sharing with us, the audience is curious.
Yes, definitely. So we're a relatively small audit department compared to other departments from what I've seen. And right now, because of the split, we're even smaller because right now we focus only on lottery. But to answer the question, we're about 20 people, 20 auditors. And that includes me and an intern as of now, managing all the data analytics for the department. So very small team. That's why we have to be super efficient and have the tools that will allow us to perform the data analytics. So, and I guess one of the reasons why we're such a small team is that we've been executing really, really well for our internal audit department.
Congratulations. That's excellent.
Yep.
Let me ask you a follow-on question to that. So when you started chatting with us, you talked a little bit about the importance of data and analytics and audit these days. And you did mention some huge efficiency gains that you've experienced after you put Knime in place. But can you talk to us a little bit about what life looked like before Knime and maybe some of the process challenges that your audit team faced?
Yes, some of the challenges that the audit team faced related to access to data. So in internal audit, it's really a crime if you have to rely on the business to provide you with the data, right, to audit. You have to be able to independently get access to that data and verify and audit as an audit department. And my department, when I joined, was actually doing really well overall, but the tools we were using were kind of siloed and they could not integrate well. So that was a main challenge because in addition to the SAP data, although is our main data source, we have other audit repositories and external data sources, and the ability to consolidate data and bring it holistically all together was a big challenge. Sure. And that's where actually Knime helped us to achieve that. And just some of the legacy tools such as ACL that we're using were not so capable of doing that. Quite the opposite. They were very restrictive and not efficient tools. So it was a no-brainer for us that we needed to switch away from ACL, for instance. Yep.
Okay.
And, yep.
Thank you for sharing that. I might come back to that in a minute, but Darren, maybe a question for you on, you work with a lot of different audit teams. Where do you see these teams get stuck when they're trying to access their data in SAP? And even in tools like Excel, what have you experienced?
Well, Excel, obviously, we'll talk about audit. I mean, Atanas mentioned sort of millions of rows. A lot of our users, we pull in tens, if not hundreds of millions of rows of data. You just blow out Excel straight away with data volumes of that type. So that's one thing. The other thing also is just getting access to data again. So often with SAP, users will have access to maybe a data browser transaction to pull table data or run T codes, but the volumes of data we'll talk about again makes it very onerous. Very early on, one of our first customers, we had an interesting first demo with them when they saw the capabilities of the software, because at any given month, they're spending 2 weeks preparing data for their reporting. right? And majority of that was downloads, manual downloads
Mhm.
of data. And for them, you can say, well, why didn't IT do certain things? But for them, getting IT involved for anything is just a whole project.
Right.
So I think we can do things with Knime it is very flexible, very nimble, at a speed that business works at. And I guess our software just unlocks the access to the SAP data. So it's a kind of just the time saving is huge. So they focus on the preparation for the job rather than actually doing the job itself. And once they have that, when we can automate this as well, even better, right? It becomes, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can really do there.
Yeah, excellent. There's a follow-on question that somebody asked, Darron, there, and maybe Atanas, you both could speak to this, but the question is, when you were working through the implementation of DVW connectors to access that SAP data, did it require collaboration with the team that was managing SAP within, I guess Atanas, maybe your perspective first, within Brightstar or IGT at the time, how did that work, that rollout?
Yes, it actually required a POC and also working with our SAP basis team, InfoSec, legal. And we really wanted to make sure we do it the right way. So we involved all these departments. But to what Darron was mentioning earlier, what helped us is really the way the technology, the DVW connector is structured. We were able to explain that it works at the application layer.
Okay.
And also when we showed the value of it, namely for our internal audit department, that we'll be able to query not only tables but T codes. That really helped us build the use case, and from there it was just a matter of going through the steps to really work with the various departments to implement the tool. But just to piggyback on what Darron mentioned earlier, for internal auditors to be able to query T codes is absolutely a game changer, because we can have one-to-one verification and audit against what the business is doing, for instance. And that actually, from internal audit perspective, is huge. So
you talked about some of the challenges prior, and you mentioned ACL briefly as a tool you were using. Can you compare and contrast what it looked like in your older environment versus what you have access to now, DVW within Knime?
Yes. There's really no comparison. All joke aside, it's day and night difference for many reasons, but the combination of Knime and DVW compared to ACL and their connector is very, very different the way it operates. So just one technical aspect of it, ACL writes on disk and it's not efficient. So just from that standpoint. Also, it's mostly linear and uses a language that is not very popular out there. So I really want to congratulate all the ACL users out there for doing amazing things with the tool that is not so flexible. And because of that, we needed to move to something that is really more flexible, and Knime is definitely that tool for us. Again, ACL was very restrictive. I always joke that working with ACL is just as painful as getting the injury. And also, as far as DVW, so the DVW connector not only can connect to T codes in addition to tables, which is fundamentally a huge advantage, but also the speed of the queries are the DVW and Knime, this hybrid approach, allows us to query data much more flexible, faster, efficient, and then just the nature of the visual workflow allows us to do more analytics as a downstream subsequent steps that can be easily audited, meaning we can audit our own work in this visual canvas workflow. And also with the DVW connector, the way it's set up, we can have all the parameters upfront that we fit into the DVW connector, as opposed to just call them. And that also helps with documentation and proving that what we're querying is the requirements, and it's reproducible.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Before we move away from the space question, Darron, I'm going to toss this back to you. There seems to be some chatter around getting access to the SAP data. So Atanas, it was interesting to hear your experience and how it worked for you. Maybe you could talk to us about what you've seen from a best practice with other organizations as well. Someone in the chat is mentioning that SAP, their internal SAP team really doesn't want to give them direct access. We've all experienced that, right? That could be a challenge around security concerns. So how does the audit team get past that? Do you have any recommendations or things that you've seen?
I think from our side, we found audit, finance, tax, from a data perspective, seem to have more power than any other group I've worked with. So if anybody is getting access to data, it's been one of those teams, right? Because the function, you need the data. You simply need the data. The objection, I see the question there, is a funny one. This kind of comes and goes. This comes and goes in cycles. Usually it's fear-based. I hate to say this. I'm an old SAP consultant, spent 20 odd years working with SAP product set, building my skills, and suddenly a piece of software comes along that can say, actually, I don't need you for doing this stuff anymore, Darren, because we got it covered. So you'll find that there's a sort of let's call it a bit of a walled garden around SAP. Naturally, I think you have to present your business case as to the value of it, and insist on, like the case of Atanas' company, a proof of concept. Because we'll do trials all day, and we've spoken to countless SAP teams, basis teams, security teams, InfoSec. We know all the questions they're going to ask. We know the objections. Bring us in. We will definitely help you with that. And the key thing is, you have to understand, it's not security based. Really, it's fear based. Let's get through the fear, and then we'll address the questions on security. And we can prove it all out. And we'll help you do that.
And for my department, we never had a challenge actually getting access to data from purely policy perspective, where the challenge was actually data access in a systematic way. So instead of doing it manually, again, we had access to that data, but we had to go to the SAP GUI and get the data that way. So that was the challenge, not necessarily getting access. And because of that, again, we already had the access. It was just a matter of how can we streamline the access. And when everything works at the application layer, and we already told pretty much all the departments that I previously mentioned, hey, we already have access to that data. We just need to be more efficient, and it works at the application layer. So what's the difference between me going through the GUI versus systematically querying the data? And
that's a really good point, Atanas. That is absolutely a key point, because people are doing it anyway. If you have SAP GUI access, you're doing it anyway, but it's very, very manual, very, very time consuming. Yeah.
Not only time consuming, but so is it better to actually get it as a CSV or Excel export and start doing some manipulations manually that it's actually prone to errors, versus showing a reproducible and fully transparent access to that data and the subsequent analysis, which is holistically what we want to do, right?
Yeah, I think you said it when you were talking earlier about the need to be able to streamline and show this in a very transparent way, internally and externally to other auditors, right? So that was.
And it makes total sense, but the unfortunate reality is that there are many other departments out there that do it the old-fashioned way. Because if we just step back and think what makes sense, then you can easily see the value of the way we're doing it. So.
Excellent. Yeah. There is another question in the chat that's was asking, I'd be interested in connecting to Azure, Databricks, et cetera. And so, have we got any experience with this, and how would they commence doing that? So, I will say from the Knime perspective, no matter where your data is stored, Knime is a data agnostic platform. So you can capture your data wherever it may reside. If we don't have a node that exists today for where your data is, it's something you can build, or we can work with you to build. But I don't know, Atanas, if you have experience accessing anything outside of SAP that you would comment on?
Oh, definitely. As I mentioned previously, we have various data sources that we need to access. And one of the determining factors why we chose Knime is actually the ability to not only query and get access to all kinds of data. In that first slide, I showed we have structured data, API calls, unstructured data, flat files, you name it. So we connect to various data sources. And again, we wanted a tool that it's, because of its open source nature, right? It's free and open source. We can confidently say that if the analytics space continues to evolve, the tool will evolve with it, right? We want to make sure that 5 years from now, we're going to have a tool that will still allow us to integrate and do the plug and play.
Yeah, excellent. Well, let's move to a different question now. We hear a lot of talk about AI, agentic AI, and especially this as it relates to the audit space and where there may be an opportunity. Curious from both of you, where do you see opportunities to make a meaningful impact for auditors by using, some of the latest technologies with AI? Atanas, maybe you want to share your perspective first?
That's a question that is super dear and near to my heart. So let me, if I may, can I share a few more slides here to illustrate the point and tell you where we stand from analytics perspective in our internal audit department with that? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
All right, so we have two initiatives going on within the company, and they're kind of concurrent. One of them being with proprietary models, and think of this as the traditional chatbot. But concurrently, again, in the data analytics space, we started experimenting with open source models, and Knime is really the right tool for it. And since we already mentioned that we have access to SAP data through the connector, so this is kind of the orchestration, how we do it all. We use local models. We download them locally because of the security and the privacy that comes with it. And then using Knime and DVW to get the SAP data. From there, in the internal audit space, there's a lot of talk about AI, right? And we want to see which model provides the best results for us, the best output. So we can, again, it's all about reproducibility and systematically doing it. So holding all the prompts constant once we have access to the data, we can experiment with various models, different family of models, and also different sizes within the same model. So for instance, we tried Llama, DeepSeek models, and to see which one really provides the best results. And we can capture the outputs systematically, so we don't have to just do it in the chatbot and then copy and paste to see which one provides better results. Everything's done systematically, and also that allows us to come up with a kind of library to catalog all the prompts as well. So we can capture not only the input data, the prompts, the output data as well, but the prompts, and educate our auditors what works best. And this is what it looks like in Knime. So we can really, this is the extension of the prior slide, but we can connect to multiple models here and run everything concurrently. So we don't have to just test the models one by one. And a use case can be just with the journal entries, for instance, to try to capture anomalies, or with the vendor tables to see if there are any duplicate vendors or across multiple countries. So we can do that in the space. We're not there yet because this is just a POC, by the way. And the reason we haven't fully implemented is not because of capacity, but because of the same reasons it took us to actually get DVW and Knime to begin with. We want to make sure we do it in a sound way and touch base with our InfoSec, and just to be compliant. Because internal audit is high, and internal audit, there are certain procedures and protocols that we need to kind of obey. So, but the tools, we have the tools to be compliant, and that's what matters.
Excellent. It's great to see the progress that you've done here. This is, it looks almost like a pretty picture, something I want to hang on my wall, but I think what's most impactful is the insights you're gaining for the team on the other side of that. So
yeah, I love it. I didn't get to play with crayons when I was little, so this is my opportunity to do that work.
I love it. Excellent. And, I think that is the beauty. We joke a little bit, but the goal is that, we were talking a few years ago about digitizing data science or data analysis throughout organizations. And the goal is, how do we all do more in our day with no more time, right? So streamlining to make it easier access for all. But Darron, I'm curious your perspectives here when it comes to AI, and you think about just the wealth of data that's housed within SAP. What's your perspective on how, the role that you might play in that in helping organizations?
I think it goes back to the really old, is it garbage in, garbage out type of phrase from years and years ago, showing the age here. But I think if you can apply high quality data to these systems, then you're going to get the best output possible. And I think where we sit is to provide the best quality of SAP data output into platforms such as Knime, to try to shape the data before it's passed on to the models themselves. So not too excited from our side, I guess, but I think it's a key part of the overall process.
Absolutely.
And that's a really good point, if I may just add to that. So yes, you can query SAP data, right, with ease, but to get it ready for large language models, for instance, there's some level of data wrangling that the data needs to go through. And that's why the combination of Knime and access to SAP data with the DVW connector is key, because you can prep the data to be AI ready. So, and again, it ties to this overall data pipeline that we're building that is robust.
Excellent. Well, we've got some more questions. I want to try to get to these. Atanas, this one is asking you, and it said, when you were discussing your slides, you did mention use of R and Python within your data science libraries. So do you integrate those languages within your Knime workflows? Could you speak to this a little bit?
Yes, we do. And in the beginning, before we fully integrated Knime into our processes, we were also using R a lot. My background is in statistics, so I'm very familiar with R. And now we can integrate. So all that good work that we've done in R is not lost, quite the opposite. With Knime, we can easily use some of the R scripts and projects that we've done in the past. But we can also break it into more of a workflow that makes it not only easier to debug or also to accommodate ever-changing requirements, but also we can collaborate with others. So when they see just linear script with thousands of lines of code, people may get intimidated, but when they see it all organized, going back to the crayons, it's just so much easier. Yeah, but it reduces complexity essentially. But again, we haven't lost any of the wonderful work we've done in R, and that integration is really key. Again, I can't stress enough the importance of plug and play, not only conceptually, but also efficiently. You can do a lot more.
I think there's a follow-on question to that, and you spoke to it a little bit, but I'm just going to ask you specifically because an attendee wants to know, does your audit team use Knime directly, or is it specifically the DA team? So who is getting benefit, and then what does that digital learning journey look like for those audit team members if they are in Knime, using Knime?
That's an excellent question. So both, and let me make a distinction between both groups. Some of the auditors are more analytics capable and savvy, so we allow them to actually use the Knime Analytics platform, which is free and open source. And it's been really a game changer because we don't require additional licenses. We can get them up and running within 5 minutes, and we can collaborate, share workflows to get them started and all that. So yes, we do have some more technical savvy users, and not only within the internal audit department, we actually created workflows that we shared with other business units. So now they see us as actually partners, not just auditors, right? And that's been a very key component. But the second part of the question, sometimes the auditors, they just need the data, and that's where Knime Business Hub comes in, because we can show that everything is actually version controlled and sound. So we can really achieve high level of innovation and collaboration while maintaining, sound level of versioning with Knime Business Hub. And this is key. So that's why I advocate not only for the Knime AP platform, but also for the Business Hub, because you can also do scheduling there. We have workflows that run on a schedule. So I don't want to hijack the conversation, but these are very important points from audit perspective.
Excellent. I'm going to ask one last question to each of you. And good news, it does look like we have Ian back, so we will end our time today with it. But before we do that, this last question, there's a couple in the chat, so I'm trying to incorporate a few things into this one Power Pack question. But the basis of it really is, what is your biggest aha moment? So if you think about your audit work within Knime, and Darron, you can comment on that from accessing data. But there are some questions in the chat about external auditors and how Knime is helping you there. So if you can talk about your aha moment Atanas, you first, and we'll turn it to Darron. And if there's anything unique to say about how this has helped you with external auditors, the audience is curious to learn that as well.
So the aha moment was actually for management when we could show that we can systematically query large data sets from SAP, go through the data wrangling and preparation and put them, for instance, in Tableau dashboards, and not only run that ad hoc, but also put it on a schedule using Knime Business Hub and fully automate it. So just think about it. Now we can query millions of records and get rapid insights and expose that not only as Knime data apps, but also in form of a Tableau dashboards. And we also write to Teams channels, you name it. So various outputs, robust and efficient way to query data and everything in between that we can accomplish.
Excellent. Darron, I'll give you the last word there on aha moment.
No, mine's maybe a little more trivial than Atanas's, but I think when we first demoed our transaction code capability way back, the user were presented who cried, and is because they could see how their life was just going to change once I'd implemented this software, and it meant for us that we knew we had absolutely had a viable product, and that we could sell our product, sell our product to business users who had no real knowledge of SAP at all, who just knew they had to run a certain T code or report in order to get the wanted out of it. So mine's kind of selfish. It's all about me and our company, but it's quite a key one for a lot of our users as well.
Excellent, thank you. Well, with that, I think that's a great tee up to bring Ian back to stage, and let's get a look at what this actually looks like. Hopefully we got some good
Hopefully you can, yeah.
Welcome back in.
Thank you. I'm not sure who dug up my broadband, but anyway, they managed to put it back together. So hopefully it'll hold out for the next 5 minutes. Great segue. Thanks, Darron, to show you the tools. You can see on the screen a couple of our tools. They're designed to be just another Knime node that is fully seamlessly integratable into the rest of your workflows, as has been mentioned throughout the session. As you can see, if I search for SAP, then there are a whole bunch of them. These reflect all the different types of objects, if you like, SAP objects that we can connect to, and obviously the different systems. So you can see S/4HANA and BW in there, but also SuccessFactors. You can see reports, i.e. T codes. I'll show you this in a minute. That's the segue. But also Spool, iDocs, you name it. Pretty much any object within SAP, we can get our hands on in an easy way, as you'll see in a second. So let's start from the beginning then. Let's bring in our report tool. As I said, this is the one that runs a T code. Okay, so transaction code runs straight into Knime. Basically, it's just, as you say, another node, so we can configure it. And when we configure it, then what it does is it allows us to see the wealth of technology that sits behind these. Now, whilst they're very easy to use, super easy to use, there's lots that can be done here to make your life easier. So imagine being a business user or an auditor, you know your T code that you want to get the data from. I'm going to use a finance one. It probably resonates with many people, FBL3N. When I run this T code, I'm actually talking back to my SAP system. You can see it's ECC in this instance, but we can configure to go to S/4HANA, to old R3 if necessary, or elsewhere, as Darron's mentioned. You see it's run the T code. Here's the parameter screen that you would see in the SAP GUI. We also have variants. So all the variants that you save on the SAP side, that's a list of, or a saved set of parameters, can be used. If I pick one of these, then I can use that, or I can bring the actual values across into Knime here. So here are the values. So I'm running for a particular company code, a set of GL accounts, some dates. If you're technically savvy, then you'll know about layouts as well, so we can use layouts too. But this is very familiar for SAP users. Next thing to do is say, hey, well, what's this going to look like? You know, the output from an SAP T code isn't always nicely usable. You know, the way probably you're using at the moment is to run the T code in the GUI and then export it across into Excel. Well, forget that. This is much easier. Let me run the T code. Okay, this is without even running the workflow in Knime. We're just getting a preview of what it looks like, this output. It's as beautiful as ever, as beautiful as you're probably used to in SAP. It's not necessarily perfect for analytics, but it gives us the data we need. And the way this one works is it's got a GL and a company code in the header. For each combination, you get a little mini table with some totals, and then it goes on and on and on to the next ones and the next ones. You may notice, without touching anything, it's identified that this is a header. This yellow marking says this is a header for this table. The tool has got inbuilt intelligence. It's also seen that these 3 values are in the header. Maybe we don't want, we can maybe change this in line. We don't want that one, so let's ignore. We can manually change these using the pieces above. But also it's noticed that, look, there's dashes and there's blanks. Ignore those, grey those out. And even totals. Totals can be a real pest when you're downloading to Excel and trying to get rid of them, because you can consolidate later. It's ignoring those straight away off the bat. So virtually without doing anything, the intelligence built into the tool will turn SAP data like this into something that's much more palatable for using Knime. Okay, so straight away we've got an acceleration here. All I need to do is confirm the design. I can do a little bit more configuration. I can look at the data types and lengths. You know, maybe I don't want some of this output to come across. And I can say save. Now I've saved it. What's great is that configuration, all that work that I've done there, not a lot really, the tool's done there, is usable within Knime. So all I need to do is apply that configuration. It's going slowly now again, so not good. I hope you can still hear me. So we apply that configuration, and we'll be able to then, there it goes, then execute this and run that T code directly in Knime. So literally from Knime now, I'm calling that transaction code with the parameters that I've made, and of course it didn't work well. Let's try one more time. Here's one I built earlier. It's one of those days. Yeah. So
you got about 10 seconds in.
Yeah, no worries. So there's the data coming through. What's nice, of course, as well, is that we can, as well as pushing data out of the T code tool, we can control what happens in it within Knime. We can control and dynamically do so from upstream in the workflow.
Right.
I'll leave it there and pass you back.
Thanks. Well done, mate. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, Ian, you're a champion. Thanks for getting your broadband back working and giving us a look at the tool. And that brings us to the end of our time today. So I want to thank you all. So Darron and Ian and Atanas, thanks so much for joining us and really sharing your expertise in the audit space. Thanks to our audience. We know you have plenty of different ways to spend your time. We appreciate the hour you took with us today. And if you want to learn more, you can see all the ways to connect with us. You got a sneak peek of a demo, but if you would like to see a little bit more on how that could work within your environment, scan the code here and just reach out. We'd be happy to connect with you or answer any of your questions that we may not have accomplished today for lack of time. Again, great to have you all on. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your day.